Good morning, everybody. Thank you for coming out this morning. I know it's cold and it was dark when we all woke up, but here we are. My name is Carol P. Govaert. P is for Padula, my maiden name. I am American. I'm from San Jose, California. Is anybody here from the United States? One. My parents are originally from Latin America, from Argentina and El Salvador specifically. We are first generation immigrants in the United States. I met my Dutch husband over 30 years ago. So I met him when I was 10, no, just kidding. I met him over 30 years ago at an ISEC event. It's an event for universities, and our university, San Jose State, was hosting the event. And I was the welcoming committee, so I obviously did a good job because we're still together after 30-something years.
Very warm welcome.
Yeah, I gave him a very warm welcome, but we'll leave it at that. So after I finished studying, I came to the Netherlands, and a number of years later, we married. Well, let me preface by saying that he came home one day and said, I've been offered a job to go to Peru. I'm like, okay, great, so when are we gonna get married? So 2 months later, we married. We sold our car, we sold our house, we arranged, and we left. And I spent the first week of my marriage with my mom. So we left for Lima, Peru. And afterwards, we spent some time in Singapore, Hong Kong, Taiwan, and our last stint was in Nanjing, China. And I photographed for what I call my alter ego, Magpie. And actually, my husband gave me that name because I tend to be easily distracted by shiny objects. So that's why he calls me Magpie and why the company name is Magpie. I do commercial and conceptual work. My commercial work, I do it for others. And I study marketing, and that's exactly, I have like almost really two sides of my mind. And that's for my customer. What I do for them is for them. My conceptual work is through Magpie, and that's all about me. I have a dog named Nelson, no children. That's Nelson, at 1 year old.
Looks like Frankie from the commercial.
He's a little poodle, very proud. So, my New Year's resolutions were not to be a hermit and to challenge myself. So on January 2nd, I received an email from Claudia asking me if I would speak at this event. I was thinking, I hope I have something to do on that day. I was like freaking out, like what do I have to say about the topic surreal? Just to give you an idea, this is how I felt. So eventually I talked to her and she's like, no, you could give it your own spin. Yeah, okay. So I thought, okay, I'll do it. Fulfills my resolutions. So I thought to myself first, we all throw the word around surreal, yeah? But what does it actually mean? So I'll read it because I didn't want to memorize this. Of, relating to, or characteristic of surrealism, an artistic and literary style, surrealistic. Having the disorienting, hallucinatory quality of a dream, unreal, fantastic. Totally spoke to me. So I was using it correctly. Then I thought I went into what is surreal. I'm not an art historian, so I'll just give a little synopsis. The movement started by a gentleman named André Breton, and that you gave in the description of what was going to be discussed today. It was a movement founded at the turn of the century. And I'll read this because it's a really nice synopsis of what the movement was and still is. Central idea was that the unconscious mind was the source of all imagination, and that art should try to express its contents. The unconscious, they believe, reveals itself most clearly in dreams. Okay, so this really resonated with me. So what does surrealism have to do with my work? It resonated because that's what I do. I go into my subconscious and I explore my subconscious and bring whatever is out. So that was surrealism. I can be in there for hours and I will come out and I'll produce something and I don't even know that I produced it. So I look for work. I did that when I guess it's what you call the zone. I had never understood that, but it's, you go into your subconscious and you're just there. So, how do I explore my subconscious? I do it in 3 different forms. I give myself the freedom to explore, so I photograph intuitively. Sometimes I don't have an idea, so I just take my camera and just go. And maybe I'll think of a technique that I want to practice or whatever. I just photograph intuitively. Playing and experimenting to just let go and just not have any goals or anything that you have to produce something. No, it's really important that you play and experiment. Conceptual projects. Those, I enjoy those, and I'll have an idea. Maybe the idea, I'll immediately, oh yeah, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to collect the things I need to do it. And sometimes an idea could take me years to put together and gather the information and gather ideas and thoughts. So I thought the best way to show you is through my photographs. So, freedom to explore. This series I did, it's on my website as well. It's called Life. It's my life, it could be your life. And I did it over maybe 2 or 3 years. And I took the photos over that time because it was a bit of a rough patch. And I saw altogether that, oh, there's something here. So I picked out the photos that I thought talked to one another, and as a whole made a story as well. Yeah? So, wait, let me go back. So we start our journey. So I thought this was a good photo to start with. So we start our journey. We come from water, we need water. We come in alone, we do things alone, we leave alone. So I thought these 2 pictures really spoke to one another. My life, because I'm Latin, the other one Dutch. My home. Our memories, like what we do, always just end up memories. Just there, it's two-sided. It's great while we're doing it, but afterwards I always have a melancholy feeling about it because it's past, it's just a memory. What you do, the chaos of life, the chaos of nature. Alone. We walk our paths alone. We all end up in the same place. And you can take this how you want, whether you're going in or whatever, we all leave. Okay, these are my selfies. These are experimental photos. So yeah, sometimes I will use myself as for very strange selfies. I like to collect stuff. So I always use bits and pieces from stuff I collect. These are my experimental photos. So I thought I'd show you a few. Again, more junk. Conceptual project. Yeah? This took me a while. I don't know why, but I like the octopus. So I started looking into the art world and what the symbolism is of octopus. in art and different mediums. And it's actually quite sexual. The octopus has quite a sexual connotation. And I found this particular, it was a wood block, but I'll show you that at the end. And it spoke to me. And it was called Dream of the Fisherman's Wife. So I gave my rendition of Dream of the Fisherman's Wife. And this is what it is. And that's the original. So those photos were based on this. And yeah, it just, so that took me a while to put that together, but once I started working on the project, it just took a life of its own. I always, when I do my conceptual projects, I have kind of a framework around an idea, and I just go. I don't, I'll have the material, I'll put it around and just start playing. And that's what came out. So, submerging yourself in the subconscious is not for the faint of heart. Now, I have absolutely no problem submerging myself in my own subconscious and going in and exploring and bringing out whatever's in here, out there. But it took a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, and it took a long time to get to this point. I studied at the Photo Academy. And while I was there, I had the naive idea that they were going to teach me how to photograph, that I was going to come out there with my own style, my own voice. Wrong. It didn't work out that way. So I'm a real nerd, so I love doing all the technical work and bring it in and show it. And I had one teacher that actually took it, said, no, this is crap, threw it off the table and said, there's no depth. No depth. It took me years and actually pain and tears to figure out how to put depth into my work and find my own style, my own voice, your soul. So what I did is I figured out that you have to go into those places, into your mind that's very uncomfortable, those thoughts that you hide away from. So I had to go really deep. I had to figure out how to nurture and feed my subconscious, and I especially had to learn how to let go. Yeah, it's very difficult as adults to just let go. I teach children basic photography, and I just teach them the tool, and I let them go. I show them some photos, the nice ones. I show them some photos that they are allowed to see, and they just go. They're very free. We lose that as we get older. So this is my breakthrough. This is the first time that I actually did a series where I wasn't thinking about it. And it's more or less the tone of what I have in most of my work now. So these 3 photos are very important to me. The first time that I came in and they didn't come in, I came in and they're like, you're starting to get it. So then, what they don't teach you is the how. They just tell you, you have no depth, go back, do it again. But they don't teach you the how. Has anybody experienced that? I see lots of nods. Yeah, they don't teach you how to get in there, how to bring it yours out. So I thought I'd share my experiences with you. The 3 forms that I've mentioned are what I utilize. I started keeping a journal of ideas, like anything. I just was walking here yesterday and saw all the lights, and it's so beautiful. I'm going to go back and use that. And I'll always send notes back to myself. Either I carry a paper with me if I don't have my phone, and I just, always with my phone, I just email myself, and I keep it on a master list. And when I'm stuck or something, I'll just go back and look at the list again. I started practicing yoga because my mind was very restless, and I had different people almost talking in my mind. It was very, very busy. And so with yoga, it helps me to focus. It helps me to become more focused. I try to practice mindfulness. I really do, but sometimes. Listen to your inner voice. Just stop being so cerebral and just listen. Quiet. I looked at other artists' work, not to copy, but to be inspired. Like I mentioned before, I go to the uncomfortable places in your mind. I did that. And I did that by speaking to coaches. Like, I haven't spoken to Claudia, but I have spoken to coaches that have helped me and look at my work, and they see something else that you don't see. It's like coming into your own house. And after a while, you don't see what needs to be done in it. That's where you live. So it's good to talk to a coach. I also talk to psychologists to, bring out those feelings and what's in your mind. So you're able to deal with it, and with my photography as well. It's a form of meditation, and that's how I deal with things. And of course, just practice, and you practice, and you practice. Does anybody else have experience with this? I'd be curious if anybody else has a way that they prepare themselves, or that you can find your own. I see you nodding.
Yeah, it's practically the same. No yoga, but the rest of this, yes.
Yeah? Oh, that's good. Is there anybody else that could add something to this?
Keeping the journal of ideas.
Yeah?
That's what I would do. Yeah.
Yeah? Anybody else know?
Well, there might be something, actively look for inspiration, so go to
Yeah.
a museum or anything like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, definitely. So that's here. So how do I nurture and feed my subconscious? I'll go into these ones a little bit more in depth, but I thought that was Salvador Dali. I love Salvador Dali. I dream like Salvador Dali. So really like Salvador Dali and the surreal art. This is just a short list. Music that brings you to a place, that always brings you to a place in your past. Or maybe in your future. It depends on the kind of music. Horror films, I love horror films. Even though they really scared me. I mean, they really, really scared me, but I really love horror films. Children's films, they're so colorful, and I love the animation. Yeah, I've lived in different countries, traveling. Traveling is a great inspiration. Literature, especially anything that has to do with magical realism, and not too much into books that are too real. So I like the magical realism, like Gabriel Garcia Marquez or Isabel Allende, like those sorts of museums, like you said. Food, I like the colors and textures, like with the octopus. I'll throw food a lot into my work as well. Nature. I'll look at a lot as photography magazines, see what's happening, maybe there's something that I don't know. Current affairs, what's going on now, and of course history. But I'll go back to these ones. Dreams, life experience, religion, passing of time. Dreams. I'm going to read you something because it's such a nice sentence that I wrote, and I won't remember it. Let's see. Dreams. And this one flowed out of me, so I have to read it to you. My dreams, they are dark, twisted, and vivid, with a melancholy streak infused with dissolution. That's how I always dream. Like since I was a little kid, I've always, always, always dreamed like that. I always have very dark dreams. So this series is based on those dreams. And these is based on my life experiences. I've said I'm a first-generation immigrant in the United States. Yeah? So when I was growing up, my experience with the, let's say, American culture came from outside of the house. Yeah, I didn't quite always understand it. Kind of clashed with my Latin roots. And the Latin culture was in the house with the family, the music, what we ate, how they even talked to you. You know, we were raised with Spanish, so it was quite always a contradiction with what within the house and outside of the house. When I was a kid, we used to travel quite a bit to Latin America. I was born in El Salvador. My mom's from El Salvador. And when we were there, you had another status because you lived in the United States and we spoke English. So we were never, or I don't know about my brothers and my sisters, but I never felt like I either belonged to one place or the other. And now with the Dutch and traveling around, it's like I belong everywhere and nowhere at all. So I always felt like I was from the outside looking in. So that's what this series is about. Passing of time. Always been aware of the passing of time. Even when I was a little kid, I remember sitting on my mom's lap while we were going to move and looking at the moon. And I was 5, thinking very melancholy. I wonder what, we just left this. I was 5. Tears. Anyways, a number of years ago, some serious, people started passing away and some things started happening in my life. But what I found when people passed away and what I saw was how their possessions have something magical to them. I don't know if you all experienced that, but when people pass away, it's like I'm wearing my grandmother's ring. It's like they have special powers almost. So I thought to myself, what would my husband see after I was gone? And that's what this series is based on. That's the husband. Oops. That's the husband. So that's what this series is based on. I'm a collector. My husband would call me a hoarder because we have like a dungeon and it's just full of stuff down there that I just picked up, like parts of legs, not real ones, but parts of puppets and all kinds of weird stuff that I use in my photography, and he won't go down there. So I really like to just collect stuff. I'll tell you a story. I got it in my head that I wanted to use one of the old television sets, with the big tubes and things. And I brought it home. It's a big thing. Brought it home, and I listened to my inner voice, and it said, you better figure out how to break this thing apart. You better not just like how I wanted to do, just take a hammer to it and just break it apart. Luckily I did, because the back can hold an electrical charge that can electrocute you. Or if I would have smashed it open how I wanted to do with the hammer, I probably would have had little marks all over my face now because of the glass that would have exploded because of the pressure inside the tube. And I would have released some gas or something that's not very healthy for you. So I like to collect, but be careful when I do. So these are just some of the pieces. Like that previous photo was done with bits and pieces from a television set and an old computer I found along the road and brought it home. The same with this. It's just bits and pieces that I almost feel sorry for things that are in the house, and I don't like to just throw them out. So I'll use them, I'll incorporate them. It's almost like they have feelings. So I'll incorporate them into my, whatever I do. This is when I was playing around, and this bit I found outside. So I incorporated it into my work. This is a television set. So I put all the bits and pieces in there. Television set with some embellishment. Religion. Okay, let me preface by saying that I respect anybody that's into religion, but I'm agnostic. When I was younger, where the family is Catholic, but I had to do my first communion. And at that time, I was 10, I knew, I don't know what, but I knew this organized religion is not for me. Managed to piss off the priest by asking him all kinds of questions that he wasn't going to answer. And as I got a little older, I started looking into it. I think it's quite interesting, the history and all that bit about it, but I didn't like how a lot of the religions divide people, the greed in the religion, the violence that's done in the name of the religion, hypocrisy, the sexual molestation now. So this was based on those feelings. That's, again, respect if you're religious, but this is just how I feel about it right now, the organized religion. So, what have I learned? And in my own work, I don't like to label things. I don't like to be labeled, because I don't like to, like when you go to the art academies or the photo academy, they're like, you have to be, this, or you have to be that. I never liked that. And I've always been about living and creating and being in my own little world and creating my own worlds. So what I learned is my work is actually surreal. By doing, by speaking to you and going back and looking into seeing what surrealism is, my work is surreal. This is a piece I'm starting to work on right now, so yeah, you can't call it anything but surreal. It's called, for now, perhaps it'll take on another life of its own. Right now it's called Me Too and Then Some. So, I leave you with this thought: create your own realities. Thank you so much for listening and for coming this morning. Do you have any questions or any comments?